Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. Welcome. It is wonderful and humbling at the same time to see with how many we gather here this morning in order to think through the world through the prism of Anthropocene thesis. My name is Maria Hlavajova and I'm Artistic Director of BAC Basis for Aktuelle Kunst here in Utrecht. It is both my pleasure and privilege to host this wonderful lecture by Professor Bruno Latour, How to Sort Out the Many Ambiguities of the Concept of Anthropocene, with response by Professor Anat Singh. And I welcome you here also on behalf of BAC team and BAC Supervisory Board, but also on behalf of Professor Rosi Braidotti, a great thinker, friend and colleague, who is director of the Center for the Humanities here in Utrecht, and at the same time a research fellow at BAC. Center for the Humanities and Rosi Braidotti is co-organizer of this event together with BAC. And actually in BAC we work intensely together on the project that we titled Future Vocabularies, and specifically a sequence of programs under the heading, under the title, Human, Inhuman, Posthuman. Now it is within this program called Future Vocabularies that we, together with artists, scholars, and activists, attempt to map out the contemporary condition in order to propose, let's say, conceptual itineraries that could help us both navigate through the contemporary condition and, of course, importantly, propose discursive, performative, and artistic imaginaries that aim at composing a speculative lexicon through which to think the future, or better, perhaps, prospects anew. Today's lecture stems from an exhibition and project called Anthropocene Observatory that is currently on view at BAC. It is an exhibition and a discursive study environment, which is a result of a long-term research by Territorial Agency, headed by London-based architects and urbanists Anne-Sophie Ronskog and John Palmesino, together with Berlin-based artist Armin Linke and curator Anselm Franke. And it's really great pleasure to be able to see and welcome John and Armin here in Utrecht today. Now, Anthropocene Observatory proposes to rethink the contemporary world through the prism of the Anthropocene thesis. The Anthropocene is understood as an epoch in geological chronology during which the global impact of human activities is inscribed onto planet Earth. This geo-historical era, marked by the domination of human species, has brought along transformations that bear unprecedented consequences for all facets of our present and future. Through what ways of looking and knowing, of feeling and being, can we assess these radically altered circumstances? What future vocabularies of politics, science, and art might enable us to know, envision, and do things otherwise? Now, as an exhibition, Anthropocene Observatory forms a complex knowledge archive that gestures towards ways of approaching precisely these questions. Functioning literally as an observatory, it puts forth the data and knowledges collected and generated over the course of the last 2 years, offering them up for public inquiry and critical exploration, so as to probe how the Anthropocene thesis is being recognized and disputed, embraced and discredited, negated and applied across a wide spectrum of scientific, political and culture contexts. And here a little brief zoom in where we can see Professor Bruno Latour in conversation with Cristina Figueres, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. A fascinating conversation. Now, consisting of films, interviews, printed documents, and installations that uncover issues ranging from spatial and territorial modeling to climate change and environmental politics, to applied systems analysis, to supranational power operations and their institutions, Anthropocene Observatory attempts to imagine and reconstruct the tangled interrelationship between geology and political history. By making visible how the capitalist world system is interlocked with the rapid transformation of the Earth system, how changing sources of energy correlate with particular political, legal, managerial, and spatial orders, from city-states dependent on woods, to imperial reliance on the harvesting and uneven distribution of coal, to the global constellation's dependency on fossil fuels and nuclear energy, the project asks whether the extant infrastructure of knowledge, politics, science, and art is at all adequate in meeting these colossal changes and challenges. Anthropocene Observatory urges us to not leave this question unaddressed. And I hope that these images of the animated, inhabited, and occupied observatory attest indeed that we at BAC have taken this seriously, that urgent call to not leave this question unaddressed as we continue to instigate occasions for collective quest as to how to imagine and enact the world otherwise. Now, I would like to invite you, all of you, to join us in this effort and visit Anthropocene Observatory. And if you do so today, please remember to take your tickets to this lecture, which you can use as your entrance card. Now, I would like to use this opportunity to thank a number of partners in these efforts. An impressive list of the institutions that support us in this process of trying to figure out how to imagine and enact the world otherwise. Now, in the very beginning of this very brief welcome, I mentioned this gathering to be a part of BAC's ongoing research series, Future Vocabularies. Under this name, we're exploring the notions of human, inhuman, post-human, as I mentioned, attempting actually to build an understanding as to how the former domain of the human is reconfigured, and what does the concept of Anthropocene offer within these recompositions. Now, at least two things have become very important during this process for me to keep in mind. One concerns the warning that to face the ecological challenge cannot end with one exhibition, and that it must be a continuous process of rethinking, reimagining, and reworking our ways of being in this world. Through ongoing collaboration between BAC and Center for the Humanities, we do remain committed to this subject and to this mission, and will continue to build what we call the post-human glossary, a project that I would like to invite you as well to join in the coming months of May and June at BAC. Now, art as an infinite quest to think unthinkable. And this is the sentence that a friend of mine, a member of Amsterdam-based collective of refugees, We Are Here, Osman Nur, just introduced to me as a possibility to think through the world otherwise today. So art as an infinite quest to think unthinkable. If that's so, then it has a vital, critically important role to play in this process. Yet, and this brings me to my second point, there's no way out of the current conundrum without working together and without crossing the borders, the boundaries between art, science, and politics. And even if there is a seductive mention of the future in the title, Future Vocabularies, it is at present that the renegotiations of our understanding of the world and of ourselves must take place. Now, today, with no delay, no postponement to some indefinite time to come. Only then can we indeed imagine a future we have not yet seen and work towards its actualization. And importantly, I would like us to remember that we are in this together. And that's the sentence that's very often stressed throughout this process, throughout the preparation of this project, and throughout this continuous quest as to how to think unthinkable, the sentence stressed many times by Professor Rosi Braidotti, whom I would like to offer the floor now to introduce our speaker today. Thank you.